What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another 3D model. It's spooky season and Halloween is just around the corner, so I thought it'd be only fitting to make a spooky or a Halloween themed 3D model for this week's video. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a huge Halloween fan and this is probably my favorite time of the year, so I was really excited to make something a bit spooky for this video. And I didn't want to do something classic like tombstones or a coffin, which I did briefly think about doing, but I thought it'd be even more fun to make a spell book or a ritual book, something used for maybe witchcraft or summoning spirits, anything along those lines, but this is what we're going to create for this week's video. And I also thought it'd be a bit fun to approach the model a bit different than usual. So if you're familiar with this channel, most of the time, I just render right out of Substance and add a pretty plain background. That way the main focus is just on the prop we created and not really adding much to those renders afterwards. But for this week's video, I wanted to change that up. This time we're going to add a little bit more detail in the renders after they're done in Photoshop. We're going to add a bit of glare, I'm going to add my candle. Of course, we're going to model the candle, but for the flame itself, we're just going to add that in Photoshop. And we're going to hopefully make this spellbook feel like it's actually being used in some sort of scene. Now we'll go over that later when we're done all of those textures, but for now we just need to start creating and blocking out all of our main assets. So we have a lot to cover in this week's video, so without further ado, let's just dive into it. Now when it came to the modeling, there are so many different ways we could approach a spellbook like this. I really didn't know originally which direction I wanted to go down. Did I want to make it a bit more complex and add a bit more into the geometry, for example, all the individual pages to my book, or we can simplify it and make it a lot easier for ourselves and rely more on the textures to make it look more detailed. Now originally I wanted to simplify it. Of course I don't have a lot of time, like usual, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought it would be fun to add more into the geometry and add each an individual page. That way we can kind of bend them all and make it look a little bit more used and worn out. So the first thing to do was find some references. So I jumped on Google Images and found a few different references and started thinking about how I wanted to plan this small little scene. So the main focus was of course going to be a spell book. So I searched up a few different ritual pages or spell books pages on Google Images. And these were some of the first ones that jumped out to me. And I really liked how they looked old and really creepy, kind of eerie looking with all the cool, I don't know, witchcraft symbolism or satanic or demonic symbols that were in there. It just looked very Halloween-like, and I thought this would be a really good direction that we could approach our spellbook. And I also wanted to add a few other elements into the scene. Now, like I said, I didn't know how many I wanted to add. The more you add, obviously, the more time it's going to take up. So I just wanted to add one or two to make it a bit more interesting to look at. So I found this photo online of a candle, and I thought it'd be fun to add a small candle on the side. And then on the other side, I thought maybe a little knife or something, as if you're maybe cutting something to get some blood for your ritual, or really anything. Leave it up to the imagination of the viewer, but I did want to add a few extra elements, so I found these other elements as well. And then lastly, I found this image of a small pendant. It's like a necklace or some sort of thing used in spells. I basically searched up spell necklaces or ritual necklaces, and this image popped up. And I thought this would be a fun one to also add into our scene. And I thought maybe it'd be cool to have it laying on top of our open book, as if you're in the middle or in the process of doing some sort of ritual or summoning some sort of spirit or something. So after I gathered up my reference, I kind of had a direction. I wanted to have a candle, a knife, and a book, and a small little necklace kind of on the page. So those were the main assets I needed to block out. Now when it comes to the spellbook, like I already mentioned, I really wasn't sure how complex we wanted to make it, and I thought it'd be cool to add all those individual pages. So we'll go over, when we go over the UV mapping, I will go over in much easier way you could approach a spellbook and don't have to actually create every page, because of course if this is for a video game, you're not going to do it like this. But the whole purpose for this video was just to create a really cool, creepy scene, and I wasn't really worried at all, to be honest, about poly counts or texture sizes or anything like that. So we're just going to have some fun with this week's video and try to see what we can come up with. Now don't forget, if you want to see this full video in real time, which includes the full UV mapping process, you can find it all on my Patreon page, which will be linked in the description below. And you can also get access to the working files and the FBX model, so if any of that interests you, you can find it all on my Patreon page. Enough of me talking, we got a lot of modeling to do, so let's continue with our book and slowly piece together our spellbook. stop recording just briefly, and all I did while the camera wasn't recording was basically just create my base for my candlestick, and then I started my candle. So let's just really quickly go over exactly what I did so you're not missing out on anything, and then we can continue on with the video. So for the candlestick, this was very straightforward. I just used a simple cylinder, and I basically bleeded all the sides. I just started extruding one side and create the shape of my candle. And this is very easy. You don't have to like overcomplicate this. This is something similar like this. I'll show you exactly what I did. I'm just going to basically do this a little bit quicker than I did before, so you can spend a bit more time making it look however you like. But I was using that reference in that photo we found of the candlestick as my main reference for this thing. So as you can see, I'm just hitting extrude, just continuing to extrude the shape. And once I have something like this, let's say this is my candlestick. Obviously this one behind it looks a bit different. The main thing is that this I made it quite large. This was quite large as well. So something like this, and then what I can do is add a basically supporting edge. So I'd go through on these edges that I wanted to keep hard, and I can go through and add a very small bevel to them. So when I press 3 on my keyboard, which we'll do to these ones as well, it's going to keep that shape. And that's basically what I did for this back one. We do the handle later on in the video, so don't worry about that. But this just wanted to show you how I created the main base for my candle. And then for the candlestick, to be honest with you, this was the thing I was stressing about most when it came to all the assets in the scene, because I've actually never made a candle before. I know it sounds crazy, but I feel like this would be a great model for something that being sculpted, not modeled. But all I did for this was basically the exact same, kind of build the main shape of my candle. So something like this. And then I can start going through and actually like bending somebody. So if I hit 3 on my keyboard, first off, delete the bottom face. And I'm gonna add another supporting edge to this inside one. And if I hit 3, let's add a couple more up here. You can see I kind of have my shape, so I'm just going to take away 1. And then I started basically, well actually this was a little bit thicker. Just really quickly for the example. And you can start extruding things. So basically I could extrude this side out, bring this down. Faces, so these ones could all come out a bit because I had it kind of drooping. So let's add another edge loop. Like I said, you could probably get much better results using software like ZBrush or something with sculpting software, so you can really add those details in. But this is basically what I did to start my candle shape. We're just gonna make it look a little bit more deformed. Like it's kind of drooping on one side. You can grab all of these if you want and just like slightly angle them. Simple ones like this. And I can just merge just the top ones to create like an effect like it's like that's a draw. That's what I did for all these little ones. As you can see, it's not, I probably could have done better, but this is basically what I did for my candle. I know this looks a little ridiculous like this, but just to show you kind of how I approached it. So you can take your time, slowly build up your candle shape. Originally, I only had one little droop, and then I decided, the more I looked online, I know they have all these like little spots that the wax builds up before it drops down. So I just added a few more of those. The candle is probably the thing I'm least happy with. I feel like it's the first candle literally I've ever did really quickly. So I feel like I should have taken my time and probably added a bit more detail, make it look a little bit more built up. Some references online were showing like little tiny lines from the candle drops. And I probably should have added some more wax that was dripping on the ground, which would have been really cool as well. So there's really so many things we could have done, but that's just how I approached that candle shape. And I also actually tried a smaller candle shape, which I used for one render, but I don't know, I just liked the look of the taller look better. I don't know. Anyways, we could have explored a bit more with that as well. So now let's just jump right back into the video where we left off. right, so here's our spellbook in its finished form. Now there's a few things I decided to do last minute, and honestly, everything was basically the exact same. I just went ahead and made a bit more extra creases in these little papers underneath. Of course, we can add a wave effect later on in our material, but I didn't want it to be perfectly straight since these are old spell or witchcraft papers. I just wanted to make sure it was looking a little bit crooked. Even the slightest little bit would go a long way. So something like this, like bending the corner a tiny bit, or this one just pulling it out. Just trying to mess around with the paper to make it look not perfectly uniform. And to be honest with you, this is some area, or probably the main area that I wish I invested more time in. It's just making the paper look a bit more worn out. And I also went through with my book and just basically selected one random page, went to vertex, and while my soft select brush by pressing B on my keyboard, I can just slightly bend my paper in certain areas. So I would grab a random piece and grab them and slightly bend them out. So I just kept doing that over and over again until I got tired of doing it, and I decided to call it a day. But I feel like that's one area I could go back. I kind of wish I did, to add a bit more uniqueness to the pages. Maybe one of the pages was bent over, like folded, and there was a hard crease. I feel like that would have been cool. Or maybe some rips, some little tears. Since they are quite high polys, I could just add like maybe a small, very small tear, so it looked more, you know, like a page was actually like torn or something. I don't know. There's really endless things you could do to add those little details to make it feel more realistic, but that's one area that I wish I invested a bit more into. And the other thing, like I mentioned early on, is I did create this small glass. It was basically, the whole idea was to have a little cork on the top, and then I was gonna add some little hair pieces inside, so like you're using the hair for some sort of ritual or something like that. But for some reason, it just didn't feel right. I don't know, maybe I should have added it. I feel like I wanted to add a lot more objects, and rather than adding a bunch to the scene, I thought we would just simplify it and keep it very simple by having a candle, a knife, and this little pendant. But that's about it. I didn't want to add too much more. If you are recreating this, I definitely recommend adding much more. I feel like it would have been much cooler to see a lot more elements, like a little flower maybe with like the petals pulled off, or a bunch of hair kind of like bundled up on the side, or I don't know, you can get creepy, add some bones or something like that. It's really endless. It is Halloween and spooky, so you can get creative, but I just decided to take the glass out of the scene and keep it like this. So when it came to the textures, I really wasn't worried about the amount of textures in the scene. Since we're not going to use it in a video game, of course, this model is fairly high, having all the individual pages. But I did change things up halfway. So if you're following along on the real-time video on my Patreon page, you'll notice that we originally only had 4 textures, or 3 textures, and I decided to add one more. And I'll show you exactly what I did. So the very first group are all the items. So that's pretty straightforward. Just the knife, the pendant, and the candle. Didn't worry too much about the UV space. I was running out of time, so I did this fairly quickly. But once again, tried to take advantage of that UV space. Looking back, I should have definitely, filled in a lot of these areas to just take advantage of that real estate. I was rushing and I didn't do any of that. So that's one area I probably could have improved on. But that was the first texture set with just all of the small items. The second one was the book, and I decided to, obviously I didn't add the pages in the book on this texture, but I thought we would have the main case, like the bookcase, the outside of the hard book. I guess it's called the cover of the book. And then also all these little sticky notes. Originally I was planning on adding like little words to these tiny pieces of paper, and that's the reason why I broke them off. I wanted the UV shells to be quite large. To be honest with you, I completely ran out of time while texturing. I just had to wrap it up. So I didn't actually add any words or any little symbols, and that's one thing I regret going back. I feel like we could have added something cool on these little pieces of paper. But anyways, that's my original intentions, was to break these shells off. That way I can have more detail, more resolution to add those tiny words, which didn't really turn out in the end. So I probably could have combined this texture set into another one looking back. And the other one are all my pages. So this is the one that I ended up breaking up into 2. Originally this was 1. And I'll show you what I did here. So basically I only ended up choosing these top pages, the ones that you can really see inside, as one texture set. So this has one texture, assigned texture 3. And I just wanted, this was the main focus of this whole piece. So I really wanted to have lots of resolution on these pages, and I wanted there to be more information so it didn't look too repeating or it didn't have plain paper underneath. So I just basically took these ones, all the under shells are all stacked. So all of these, as you can see, it's hard to see, but all the under faces or shells of these papers are all sharing the same UV space. It's only the top ones that I separated. Since you wouldn't really see underneath the pages, it wasn't important. But like I said, these two were the most important since they were the main focus of my model. And then I broke these ones down a little smaller, just so I can have more detail in those. And then for all the other pages, I basically just, let me just isolate this one. All these other pages, I decided to lay them out. So originally they were all sharing the same UV space. I know it looks a little crazy right now, but the main reason was when I brought it into Substance Painter, I noticed how you could see, even with a plain material, you could see some sort of repeating pattern down the books or down these pages. And that's simply because they're sharing the same UV space. And I thought the easiest fix, since I didn't think about it too much, was just taking all of those unnecessary pages I'm having no detail on, you're never going to see them. And I would just basically assign one texture set to them so I can lay them all out. So all of these pages, as you can see, without my other ones selected. So if I select all of these, for example, I'll show you, and I'll deselect my top pages. I think it's this one, not sure which other page, maybe it's this one. Anyways, you kind of get the idea. All these pages are laid out, and that way I can have a bit more detail. You won't see repeating patterns on the edges. So if there's like a mark on this little corner, you're not going to see a line of marks since they're all sharing the exact same UV space. And it just made it feel more realistic. And this page actually should be pulled forward a tiny bit. But anyways, that's just something I wanted to point out because like I said, I originally didn't do that in the UV mapping part of the video, but the last second I just wanted to avoid seeing those markings or having these pages look kind of odd. So I just separated them and added another texture to them. And the last one was all of my paper underneath. So once again, I wanted these to have more detail on them, so I split these off. That way I can just add a unique texture to all of these, and they wouldn't be too shrunken down in my UV map that they would look blurry. I wanted them to be a little bit large, so I kept it to 5 textures. I'm sure I could have gone much more just to take advantage. Like this wasn't being used in the video game, of course, so I wasn't limited by my texture sets, but I also didn't want to spend all day texturing a million different textures. So I kept it at 5. And I thought that would work for this piece. You let me know what you think. But that's basically how I prepared this book. Now I wanted to really quickly go over different ways you can approach a book like this. Now, of course, you don't have to do each individual page. What we could have done, let me start off with a cube and I'll show you really quickly because I think it's important to also go over. So let's just pretend we're creating a small book. Or actually, we can just start with just a plane to make life even easier. Very similar to how we created our other book is I'm going to create that curve. So if I hit 3, I can preview smooth it. Let's say something like this. And what I can do, now there's many ways. So what I can do is just duplicate this, create the other side. So let's go into world, let's go edit, duplicate special. I can throw this down the X. So I have both my pages. Let's just combine them. Just an example. I can basically take these faces, extrude them. Oh, not smoothed. Oh, and these aren't combined either. So what I could do, I forgot to combine them. Sorry, this is probably a bad example, but let's just really quickly bridge our book together. And then I could go through and maybe add some supporting edges. I think you get the idea of what I'm trying to do here. And then this, because a book kind of points in, I could bring this in just the tiniest bit. And if you didn't want to, smooth using subdivisions for poly's sake, you could just add a simple bevel. So we could do something like this. And then what you could do is add that line texture down the side in your UV map to make it look like there's line pages. And then you can just basically break one away. So what I would do is just duplicate this, isolate it, just highlight just the top one, extract it or separate it. And then you can basically have one page or even two. That way it looks like the page is kind of bent. And obviously you can spend a bit more time playing around with the shape to make it feel like it's a bit more curvy. But I think you get the idea. And that's why you can save like tons of polys, something like this, compared to, a million different pages. Of course, it's gonna not look as great, but with texturing, you can honestly fake that and you can have a pretty realistic result. So just something I wanted to mention ahead of time. If you are recreating your book, especially for a video game, you probably don't want to go down the route I went down. You want to do something a lot more simple, something like this. And that's basically how I prepared this spellbook for Substance. So all I have to do now is just go through and basically add a material to each group. So I have 5 different texture sets, and we can export this thing and jump over to Substance Painter, and we can start the texturing process. And don't forget, if you want to see the full UV mapping process in real time, it will be part of that real-time video, which I will upload on my Patreon page. All right, now jumping over to Substance Painter, we can go ahead and load in that FBX file from Maya. Now, when it comes to the textures, I basically was gonna use all of those references that we found online, showing the book, the candle, the knife, the pendant, and just use all of those as my main inspiration for the textures that I want to use or work towards. So of course I want this book to feel old. I want it to be used, really beaten up. I want it to be a little bit dirty, a little bit bloody as well. So what we're gonna start off is just using some smart materials, some base materials to work off of, kind of like foundations for all of our assets. And once we have those main foundations in there, so for example, I needed a paper sort of base material for all my pages, and I needed some leather material for my book cover, and a wood material for my candle holders. So once those main textures or materials are in place, then I can start building off of those to add more detail. So I can add some fill layers, add some smart masks to add more dirt and grunge. I added another fill layer and added a red color for all of that little blood marks on top of my paper, and so on. So the main thing here is just really not worrying about getting everything perfect right away, knowing it's gonna look quite bad originally, and then the more you work on it and refine those textures and materials, the better it's gonna look. Now I only have about an hour, maybe 2 hours tops to get the texturing done, so that really doesn't leave me much time. So I'm really gonna lean heavy into those smart materials and not worry about building these materials from scratch. It's just unnecessary and it's gonna just waste time. So I'm just gonna use those smart materials as a base, like I mentioned, and then kind of build off of them. And then when it comes to things like the candle, of course, you can jump into Maya. And if I was gonna actually render this out in Maya afterwards, I would just have a simple plane with an image, a transparent image of a candle flame. And then we can just put that flame right over our candlestick. Now in this case, we don't actually have a flame here in Substance Painter. So I'm just gonna basically find an image of a flame on Google, and then we can bring that into Photoshop after to just add our flame to our candle. And of course, we'll have to add some lighting to make it look a bit more realistic since we don't have any flame light in our model. But we're approaching this one a little bit different than usual. We're not gonna rely completely on the textures for the finished product. we're just going to throw this into Photoshop to add our lighting and make it seem a bit more, I guess, stylized, almost like it's been taken out of a movie or the spellbook's being used somewhere. So we're not going to worry too much about the colors and the details in that aspect. We can jump into Photoshop when we're done to add all of those, but for now we just need to basically get some materials on all of these assets. So without me dragging this out anymore, let's continue texturing our spellbook and let's slowly piece this thing together. Don't forget, if you want to see this full process in real time, you can find it all on my Patreon page, which will be linked in the description below. Alright, so that's basically everything for the texturing, and usually we would just wrap up the video right now, but I did do quite a bit of work afterwards in Photoshop to just add some different lighting effects to make kind of like build a story over my renders, and I thought it'd be helpful to go through that really quickly here in this video. Now, I just want to start off by saying I'm no Photoshop specialist. I'm definitely not a VFX artist, and this isn't what I do in a day-to-day basis, so I'm definitely not comfortable enough to make a tutorial about Photoshop and post-processing effects. But I thought it'd still be helpful to show you kind of what I did from somebody that's not super experienced in this area, and to show you how you can kind of build up your own and create your own storytelling after you're done your renders in Painter. So the first thing I did was find a simple background. So I started with a dark background. Obviously we're going something really dark. I guess it's first important to kind of tell you the direction I wanted to work towards. So I was thinking, when I think of like dark, scary ritual spells or some sort of scene, I'm thinking like dark red, really dark, like dungeon vibes, really spooky, very dark. It is Halloween. I didn't want to have a bright image, so I did definitely want to lean on the dark aspect of the image. And I wanted to kind of create some sort of, blurriness areas, maybe some like motion blur to make it feel like you're looking at this in a scene. It's not perfectly clear, and kind of build off of that sort of idea. So originally I found just like a background image. So I found this dirty, grungy image online that I wanted some texture. Normally in our renders, when we render them out in Substance, I just have plain gray background. So you're just mostly focusing on the prop. And in this video, I just wanted to approach that a little bit differently. So I wanted to add some sort of background. So I added basically here's another one I layered on top just to kind of blur the top. I just wanted just to have like, I guess, not it perfectly crisp around the whole image. And this isn't even fitting, so there we go. Then I just added a simple color over it. So I didn't want to go down the red route, so I just added a simple layer and brought the opacity down, and then added some more vignette, so just simple like black around the outside, just to kind of darken it up. So here's a bunch of random stuff I was trying, but I grouped it up here so I can show you actually really quickly. So here's one, here's a bunch of them that I did. So let's take this one for example. I can kind of show you how I built it up. So I added another dark vignette over top of that. And here I can actually, I think it'll be more helpful to erase them all and show you how I layered it. Once again, this is not my specialty. I'm just a random artist, and this is how I thought it would look cool. So I added a really dark vignette around, and I added I wanted to bring us a more red aspect into this since it was like dungeon vibes, and for some reason I was thinking red and black. So when I added in my render here, this is sitting under, it just helps bring up that background roughness from that material I have. So my render, of course, is not looking too great right now. I did add a noise filter to it. As you can see, there is a bit of noise, maybe a little bit too much now looking at it. So I just went to add noise, and I added just a bunch. Now we can reduce noise maybe a tiny bit, since it is a little bit. I don't even know if that helps. But anyways, I added a little bit of noise, just something I wanted to add. I also took my blur tool over here, and I just blurred out some edges so you can see the candles a little bit blurred down here. These pages on the outside a little bit blurred, just so you're more focused on the spellbook itself. Then I added in another glowing effect for my candles. So this one was pretty easy actually. All I did was using my selection tool, I highlighted my candle, so just for example, and then using the gradient tool, I can just add a gradient to that specific area. So as you can see in here, I'm just using a dark point for where that glowing is happening on my candle. After that, I added, once again, more vignette. I just honestly kept wanting to darken the image. So as you can see, I just really darkened it up and added a simple flame image I found online. After that, a subtle glow, very subtle over the candle, and And then I really wanted to start bumping up those red values. So I added both of these. And like I said, I kind of wanted to stylize red. I don't know, it's up to the artist, I guess, depending on if you wanted it more a little fictional, more realistic. I kind of wanted just dungeon stylized vibes. Added another bigger glow over top, and then I started adding in more red just to bring out the red values in that background, so it looks kind of really dark and spooky, at least in my opinion. And then I added another gradient to the scene to darken this side and have a gradual effect looking across the page. And I finished it off with one more darken vignette again. Now this might make no sense for some people out there that are way more experienced in Photoshop. I am not, so this is just what I did. But I did this, as you can see, for all of these other ones. This one as well, more glowing. I may continue to adjust these by the time they're actually into the video, so if they do look slightly different, that's the reason why. And this top-down one, once again, I wasn't sure if I was really stressing, I still am, if I want to have it more like clean pages like this or more down the red route. But that is basically how I set it up. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please let me know in the comments. I like the candle on this one as well, how big it is compared to these ones. Maybe that's what I should do, is go back and just drag my candle up a little bit to be bigger. Maybe that would help. Oh. Anyways, I'm working on it as we speak. I don't have a lot of time and I gotta wrap this video up. But anyways, let me know in the comments what you thought. Please consider subscribing to the channel or liking this video. And if you want to take it a step further and you really enjoy these types of videos, please consider subscribing to my Patreon page. I'm always uploading real-time videos and upload all my working files to all my YouTube videos. So if you want access to any of those or other tutorial-based videos, you can find it all on there. Thanks so much for tuning in. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hope you have a spooky day when Halloween comes. And I will catch you all in the next one.